It is not a secret that the electric vehicle industry has been massively growing in the past years and actually accelerated their growth massively in 2020, which obviously have led to a massive growth for companies like Tesla. And today we're going to talk about their recent delivery numbers and my expectation for Tesla in the next 5 and 10 years. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing and smashing that like button to help with the channel with the growth. Also, I want to say that I opened a second channel in Spanish for everyone that has requested it before. I already posted the first video, so it would mean the world to me if you go and subscribe and share that channel with your Spanish speaking friends and family. The link for that will be the first one in the description below. So yes, Tesla smashed expectations in deliveries for Q1, but you already knew that. For Q1, they produced 180,338 vehicles, which were only Model 3 and Model Y, since they are refreshing the Model S and Model X, changing the steering wheel and everything that we saw about a month or two ago, in order to make more efficient vehicles. They delivered a total of 184,800 vehicles, which was incredible since analysts were expecting about 168,000, which delivered 2,020 Model S and Model X, and 182,780 Model 3 and Model Y. Now, why did this impress me a lot? Mainly because this huge growth and beat of expectations came only from Model 3 and Model Y. Just imagine if they were producing and delivering more Model S and Model X, which tends to be about 10 to 12% of Model 3 and Model Y sales, which means that they could have delivered about 20,000 more vehicles if they would have been producing and delivering new Model S and Model X. Obviously, all that is speculation, but it is still incredible. And we also have to take into consideration that Q1 tends to be the worst quarter for the industry and for Tesla, which means that if they were able to grow over 109% in deliveries for Q1 year over year, we should expect that growth to continue for the coming quarters, which means that they might be able to achieve their delivery goal for 2021. Even though Tesla has mentioned that they are expecting 880 to 900,000 vehicles to be delivered for this year, they have kind of another goal of 1 million vehicles delivered by the end of this year, which obviously it would be incredible since it will be doubling what they did in 2020, and that is why we should not underestimate companies like Tesla. Also, we have to take into consideration that they are increasing their production capacity with 2 gigafactories, the one in Berlin and the other one in Texas, and are also improving some of their gigafactories to increase capacity. I will show you later on the video what their capacity will be, but we have to understand that installed capacity does not mean that's how many vehicles Tesla will produce this year. I'm saying this because you will see that they are expected to have over 2 million vehicle production capacity within their factories, but that does not mean that they are going to produce 2 million vehicles this year, since they will not be at full ramp this year, in my opinion. And I know that 1 million vehicles or doubling what they did in 2020 sounds really crazy, but we have to take into consideration that the global industry will massively grow this coming year, as many car companies are already selling EVs as well, and I think Tesla will continue being the dominant in the industry. In 2025, global sales will top 12.2 million, indicating annual growth of nearly 52% compounded. Now, before analyzing my expectations on Tesla growth and Tesla stock price in the next 5 to 10 years, let's analyze ARK Invest and Cathie Wood's expectations. Last year, ARK estimated that in 2024, Tesla's share price would hit $7,000 or $1,400 adjusted for its 5-for-1 stock split. We now estimate that it could approach $3,000 by 2025. This does not mean that they are expecting it to get to $1,400 by 2024. They are expecting it to go even higher by 2024, and they have raised their price target mainly because of the growth of the acceleration they had in 2020. In this article, they have their bear and bull case. By 2025, which has a range of cars sold of between 5 to 10 million by 2025, which I think it is possible, and you are going to see why. In this article, they don't only talk about the expected vehicle sales, but also about the insurance, which explains that Tesla will be able to achieve better better than average margins on insurance because of the amount of data they have collected in their cars. They also talked about the possible driven ride hail, also about the fully autonomous ride hail, which could help Tesla growth to accelerate even more. Now let's go to my computer to see my expectations and analysis on this company. First and most important, we know that the pandemic started in about second quarter of last year, and we thought, or we knew, that a lot of companies were going to get hit really hard, and Tesla was one of them. Obviously, as you can see in quarter 1 2020, they delivered 88,400 vehicles, which was a 40% growth between 2019 and 2020. But when you see quarter 2, you can see that they delivered 90,650 vehicles, which is actually a decrease of 4.78% for quarter 2, which was when they had to close their factory in California. We started lockdowns in the US, and no one was spending money in vehicles because we didn't know what was going to happen in the near future because of the pandemic. So after that, you can see that the growth actually started increasing massively quarter over quarter. They delivered 139,000 for quarter 3, which is a 43% year over year, and then a 61% growth for quarter 4 2020. That is how they delivered almost 500,000 vehicles by 2020, which is a 36% growth year over year. Take into consideration that 36% growth is actually incredible for any company, but we have to take into consideration that quarter 2, they had a decrease because of the pandemic. So if they will also have seen a growth in that quarter, I don't know where this number would be. It could be a 45 or even 50% growth in comparison to 2019. Now, when we see 2021, we already know that they deliver 184,000 for quarter 1, which is 109.05% growth year over year from quarter 1. Now, if they actually want to produce or deliver 1 million vehicles by the end of 2021, we should see this growth quarter over quarter, which you see quarter 2 growing 154%, which actually is not that difficult, because it is difficult, but not that difficult, because we know that in quarter 2 they saw a decrease in comparison to 2019. So we should see a massive growth for quarter 2 2021. And remember that I told you that quarter 1 tends to be the worst quarter for any car company, including Tesla. As you can see, in 2019 was the worst one, 2020 was the worst one, and 2021 will not be an exception. I think it will be the worst one, and that's why I'm expecting a nice growth quarter over quarter. I don't know if they're going to be able to achieve the 1 million delivered vehicles by 2021, but if they're able to do that, we can see this massive growth of 154% growth for quarter 2, 98% for quarter 3, and 70% for quarter 4. Obviously, maybe that will change. Those are my expectations, since quarter 4 tends to be the best quarter for them and quarter 1 the worst one. So I did like an increasing quarter over quarter growth quarter over quarter. So let's talk about their capacity. Remember that I told you that they were going to have about 2 million vehicles production capacity. Well, that's because in Fremont, they already have 500,000 capacity for Model 3 and Model Y. They've paused their Model S and Model X production because they are refreshing it, and it will increase to 100,000 vehicle production capacity. For the Shanghai factory, they already started production in Model Y and Model 3, and analysts are expecting that they will be able to produce about 500 to 550,000 vehicles in Shanghai, which would be about 278,000 for Model 3 and 275,000 for Model Y. For Berlin Gigafactory will be 500,000, and for their Texas Gigafactory will be 500,000 as well. Now, if we see their average price per vehicle, we can see that they will have their Model N or Model A. We don't know the name yet. That will be the 25,000 vehicles that they mentioned in the battery day. That will be $25,000. Then Model 3 and Model Y, Model S and Model X, the Roadster and Cybertruck, because I think that we will be able to see that Roadster and the Cybertruck already being delivered by 2025. So I included those. But I think that 65% of their vehicle sales will come from the Model N or Model A, which is a 25,000 vehicles, since it's the cheapest one. Then the 20% for Model 3 or Model Y, or these could actually increase or decrease depending on how the Model N is. Then 8% for the Model S and Model X, 2% for the Roadster because it's a very expensive car, and 5% for the Cybertruck. This gives me an average price per vehicle for Tesla of $38,844, which is actually a nice price, because if they already delivered 500,000 vehicles by 2020, and they're expecting a 1 million vehicles by 2021, we are going to see a massive growth in the revenue. Now, these are my delivery expectations in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm expecting that between 2022 and 2023, they're going to see a growth of 50% each year. Then by 2024, their growth will be 45%. Then I think that by 2025, we will see a growth of 40%. And if they are able to achieve Elon Musk's goal of hitting 20 million delivered vehicles by 2030, then that would be a growth of 34.36% year over year for vehicle deliveries, which I think it is impressive. If they are able to achieve all that, we can see that they might have a revenue of $177 billion by 2025, since I multiplied the amount of vehicles I'm expecting, which is 4.5 million vehicles, by the average price of $38,844. But by 2030, we can see a revenue from vehicle sales only of $776 billion, almost $777 billion. Now, take into consideration that that's only vehicle revenue. They don't only produce vehicles, they also have other services. For example, they have their autonomous list, they have their energy generation and storage and service and others. So if we take into consideration that, we might see a total revenue of $185 billion by 2025 and $790 billion by 2030, which I think this number is conservative, not because of the amount of vehicles they will sell or the amount of growth they will see in their energy storage, but I think that their energy storage business will be able to grow massively, even though I did not put a massive growth yet in that business, but I think that they will be able to grow it even faster in the coming years. Also, we might see an increase an average price per vehicle if we see more people acquiring the Cybertruck or the Roadster, which are going to be expensive, or the new Model S and Model X with the new features. Then after that, and after all their expenses, we might see a gross profit, as Cathie Wood is expecting a gross profit of 25 to 26%, which would be $47 billion for 2025 and $207 billion for 2030, which would be huge. Now, that would give them a profit of $21 billion for 2025 and $99 billion for 2030, which after their stock dilutions, their yearly stock dilution that I calculated to be about 2% yearly, they will have an earnings per share of 20.19 for 2025 and 79.80 for 2030, which means that if we try to calculate their share price by 2025 and 2030 and we use a PE ratio of 100, then we would have a stock price of $2,018 per share, which would be a 369% growth in the next 5 years. That's huge. Then for 2030, I will be expecting an almost $4,000 per share, which I know that Cathie Wood is expecting to see a $3,000 by 2025, which would be way faster than what this is telling me. But we have to take into consideration that this revenue that I put right here, as I said, it's not including the robotaxi business that Tesla will come out with, the autonomous driving service that they will provide as a monthly feature, and the insurance and other services that they might bring in the future, as well as the growth that energy sector could have. So I think that this revenue is actually conservative because I'm not including those things like the robotaxi. Then the autonomous driving service, I think will be huge as well, because right now the autonomous driving service is $10,000. And if you ask me, if I buy a Tesla, I would not pay $10,000 for the autonomous driving. I would prefer to pay $100 monthly instead of $10,000 at once. That's in my opinion. I know that I'm not the only one that thinks that way. So that will give them a nice revenue growth as well. So take into consideration that before hating me and throwing some hate in the comments, because Cathie Wood has a target price of $3,000 in the next 5 years, but I'm expecting way less. Take into consideration that I'm not factoring in robotaxi, autonomous driving services, and the other services that they are expecting, because it is impossible for me to know the right numbers. I can speculate that numbers because I could take into consideration other companies that do the same, but I think that that is something you should think of before investing in this company. So after all this, we can see that certainly Tesla growth is not expected to decrease anytime soon, as they are expected to continue growing their capacity and expanding even more their energy and services business. In my opinion, we are pricing in so much future growth in this stock, which obviously makes it scary to invest in this company right now. But we have to take into consideration that the whole industry is expected to grow massively, since by 2030 we are going to see many countries that will be prohibiting gas vehicle sales and will only allow or accept sales of EVs, and Tesla being the dominant in this industry means that their growth is not expected to decrease within the next 10 years, even more with their next vehicle, the 25,000 vehicles. We also have to take into consideration that they will enter into markets that will grow massively as well, such as India and maybe Latin America, because at 25,000 vehicles for Latin America is an excellent car, and an EV will be way better. For example, here in Venezuela, I know that that will be incredible because we have a lot of problem with gas here. It is not cheap for the country or for people that live here, and it is difficult to find gas every time we want. I know that Latin America and India will be huge markets for them as well. I don't know when they are planning to enter those markets, but I know that they will do sooner or later. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and smash that like button, since it really helps the channel out with the growth and to beat the algorithm. Also remember about my second channel, which is the Spanish channel, which I would love if you go and subscribe. The link for that is down in the description below. And also go and join my free Discord group chat, which the link for that is down in the description below. Thank you and see you next time.